Play some Crucible first, though. And we'll go through it in a minute. Need to make sure that if I go here, though, I see all of what I've got to work with. Get the live going now. That means I should go to that tab. Also make sure that my game here, if I do open the TWAB, it opens. Sweet. Okay. Let's go play some Crucible and then we'll go through the TWAB. In the meantime, we're getting another map vote. Lunar New Year. I want to know these. Good. We need more. That, I'm hoping, is good. High level PvP activities. You mean in all activities? Uptime on the aspects higher than we think is healthy. With a fast cooldown on the Hunter's Dodge, combined with the 2 Threadling Grenade charges granted by Widow's Silk. Oh, alright, we got a match. Oh. Freeze. I got the freeze, but I don't snipe him. Oh, it's a Blink Enthusiast. That's good. Okay. See if we can get some snipes this game. Darn, Ace of Spades. TWABs and Blink. We will see if anyone stops by. Should be up in that door, yeah? Pain. Ace of Spades definitely makes this thing hard to use. Oh yeah, I should switch my music around to the other playlist that I have. That. Hate when it doesn't properly connect and then it gives me issues. Grenade launcher. Fair enough. Alright. I don't think I've ever seen anyone actually use hand in hand. That's kind of cool. I didn't hit him with the hipfire. We got the lethophobia. Not me. It is. Go with the teammate. Unfortunate, but we did get a nice little snipe hipfire there. Alright, welcome to anyone who's joining in. Landing a match or two of Crucible here, then looking through the TWAB to see what the new sandbox changes are. Probably not a long stream. Gonna look through that and see what we can guesstimate to be good changes and what we can foresee as being added fluff. Okay, if I slide, he went to the right. He's gonna be out here farther. Slide wouldn't go through there for a sec. That's unfortunate. Got away. Now we've got this. That should help us try and get a kill and at least finish it off. I was hopeful that was gonna hit. Ah, welcome to holding gun. Welcome to anyone who's just showing up. Playing a match here while the stream notification goes out. But then we'll go ahead and go look through the TWAB and see what. Ooh, hello. I was hoping that was gonna hit. That would've been awesome. See if there's any decent changes, or if most of it's just fluff. Alright, so we'll put that up a little bit. Background. Let's see. 10 kills. Yeah, I'll take us out of queue while we go look through the TWAB here. So that's what I'm curious about. I've been waiting for this for a few months now. Alright. So, let's see. It depends on the day, realistically, as far as, like, how bad quick play is. Most of the time, it's pretty nice. I know, I've been looking forward to this TWAB for months. Mainly because this. Sandbox changes. I'm looking forward to that for a long time. So, BioWare Collection came out, but what I want to talk about is this sandbox. So, 7.3.5, we get the March 5th update. Weapons, abilities, and is that checkmate specific, or is that talking about threadlings and such? Alright, reduction in uptime for Threaded Spectre. Thank you, Bungie. Let's hope it's not just fluff. Please let me be able to kill them anytime after they've been created. If that's what that is, that's good. Restoration timer extension. Solar fragments, that one's odd. Alright. Small number of ability buffs that we're pulling forward. Stasis question mark. Alright, so Threaded Spectre is currently overperforming in high-level PvP activities, particularly Trials of Osiris. I think that should have been stated as all Crucible. We believe there are two core issues with that drive this overperformance, so let's talk about each separately. First, uptime on Threaded Spectre is significantly higher than we think is healthy, particularly due to fast cooldowns on Hunter Dodge, combined with the 2 Threadling Grenade charges granted by Widow's Silk. And then they're implementing a change that applies the same class ability regen penalty that Ensnaring Slam uses when the player creates a Threaded Spectre. Now, since I haven't actually gotten Strand on my Hunter, I don't know what that looks like, but I'm hoping that it's reasonably good. Or a reasonably decent change. They don't want it to have a negative impact on PvE, so they're reducing the duration of the regen penalty by 50% when in PvE activities, which also applies to the Slam, so it makes that better in PvE overall. In addition, I'm hoping this is for the PvE change. Okay, it is for PvE, by 25% on the detonation damage. Alright. Fewer Shadow Clones overall, but each one will be more impactful to compensate. Threadlings. This is what I'm hoping is good. The other half of Threaded Spectre's PvP potency comes from Threadlings themselves. Like Axion Bolt projectiles prior to update 4.0.1, we believe that Threadlings are currently too difficult to clear off the battlefield. To address this, we're implementing a change to make them easier to shoot and reduce instances where it feels like your bullet went straight through a Threadling without it detonating. Perfect. That right there helps fix Crucible for me. Yeah, they're still going to be annoying, but if I can at least shoot them and it actually kills them, this will be good. In addition to their potency as a distraction tool, Threadlings deal enough chip damage to players to significantly change the outcome of an engagement, so we're slightly reducing their damage versus players, both at base and with Thread of Evolution. Finally, we've identified a bug where groups of Threadlings were not chain detonating as intended when one is destroyed, which is being fixed. Thank you, Bungie. That is good. Good changes. More offensive against them, okay. Base damage versus players by 5 damage down to 35. From 45 damage to just under 40. That might not do a whole lot, but it should be fairly nice. That fixed an issue where groups of Threadlings were not reliably chain detonating when one was destroyed. Fixed an issue where Threadlings sometimes did not play their non-damaging destruction performance when destroyed by enemy fire. Also nice. Appreciate that, Bungie, thank you. We realize these changes are not localized to Threadrunner and will also affect Broodweaver potency in the Crucible. To compensate for this, we're pulling some other buffs forward that we originally planned to ship in the final shape to keep the power of their overall kit in roughly the same place. Okay, let's see what this means. We'll be increasing Arcane Needle's aim assist and tracking strength, making it significantly more consistent against close to mid-range or fast-moving targets. But that does mean that it's going to curve around walls a lot more often. That could be an interesting one. That might also get reduced later down the line. Alright, increased aim assist angle by about 50%. Holy shit. That's gonna be like knives on Arthur's almost. Aim assist fall off distance from 30 to 45 meters. Increased tracking angular velocity by about 5%. Increase the length of the projectiles, tracking shape. Interesting. Okay, so that was an issue. I wondered why I'd see players just kind of T-posing almost around the map, so that's why it was happening. So uncharged melees with Arcane Needle won't cause you to Michael Jackson around anymore. Restoration and Radiant updates. And let's just go to this. Fix an issue where the maximum duration of Restoration and Radiant was being incorrectly stored. resulting in their buff timer resetting to their initial duration instead of their maximum when the buff was reapplied. I'm gonna be honest, I didn't notice that, but that's interesting to know. This also resolves similar issues with shorter restoration sources like sunspots with the Sol Invictus aspects. Good buff there for PvE Titans. Welcome to anyone who's new here. We're just looking through the patch notes, or at least the March 5th patch notes here. Ember of Mercy. Alright, adjusting both the Ember of Empyrean and Ember of Mercy fragments. Left unchanged with the dramatically increased consistency resulting from this bug fix, these two fragments, particularly when paired together, would vastly exceed our power bar. We believe that even with these changes, the experience of using each of these fragments, whether alone or paired, should be equivalent or better than the experience in the game right now. Okay. Alright, Ember of Mercy now extends your current restoration duration by 2 seconds when a fire sprite is collected, if you don't already have restoration. Active, collecting a fire sprite grants restoration with a 2-second duration. Alright, that's kind of nice. This restoration extension is increased to 3 seconds while Ember of Solace is equipped. That could be very nice for PvE Warlocks running that. I don't know how they would run that though, but could be interesting. Alright, Ember of Empyrean increased the maximum duration extension from 12 to 15 seconds. Reworked the duration extension granted with each solar defeat. Previously, it always granted a 4-second duration extension, regardless of the type of target. Now, the duration extension varies based on the strength of the defeated target. Alright, defeating an elite or weaker will result in less time, but defeating champion or stronger results in a greater extension. Okay, so probably like a 2-second for a weaker enemy and like a 6-second possibly for champion or higher. Alright, solar ability buffs. In combination with the Arcane Needle improvements. Alright, so this is for Titans, which means that the... Oh, what are the gauntlets called? Give me a moment here. Pyrogale gauntlets could actually be very interesting in PvE now, with this specific change. Or not PvE, PvP. Alright. This was initially slated for final shape, but we feel confident enough to make these buffs up to this release. Alright, so Consecration increased the travel distance of the initial ground follow from 18 to 20 meters. Nice. Increase the height of the slam ground follow detonation by about a meter. Increase the travel distance of the slam ground follow from 16 to 20 meters. And increase the travel speed of the slam ground follow from 16 to 24 meters per second. Solar Titans will have a lot of fun with this. I'm gonna say that right now. Gunpowder Gamble is getting a straight up buff from 144 self-damage to 80. Okay. Weapons, please be good. Alright. Let's see. Each release changes. The bulk of the PvP changes are PvP specific. In the Crucible Sandbox section, hefty PvE changes to rockets, drum grenade launchers, and caster swords, and a set of weapon perk changes. Alright, weapon archetypes. We've got the heavy burst hand cannons. The Pyrogale stuff for Titan. Oh yeah. I am very interested to see how that's going to play out in the following weeks after the 5th of March. Alright, heavy burst hand cannons corrected an issue that was causing heavy burst hand cannons to have 25% less aim assist than other hand cannons when hip firing or airborne on mouse and keyboard. Well, that's just flat out better. I don't have one yet, but that actually makes me more interested to go out and get it now. Bows continue to be hard for some players to counter in PvP. They've always been strong, but we recently made them easier to use by making their fully drawn projectiles hit scan at longer distances, which makes them much more reliable at range. You don't say. We're keeping that change, but we're adjusting some aim assist data to require more skill to use them at extended range. Alright, so this is good. That means that aggressive bow builds that get up in your face and require a lot of game knowledge and game awareness will still maintain their effectiveness, but sitting in the back with Wish Ender, Lemon Arc, etc. should, hopefully, change. Reduced auto-aim fall-off distance start and end by 15%. Aim assist will be less effective at long range. And reduce the maximum auto-aim cone angle by 5%. Ooh. We ship Breakneck with one fewer perk than intended in the right column. Breakneck will get target lock. Very nice. What perks does that also have that would make an interesting pairing with that? I'm gonna say probably Encore target lock is what I would say for that one. Very nice. At least that's getting added. Alright, lightweight scouts have always had a following, but they've suffered from being unforgiving when missing crits. So we're making a change that reduces the proportion of crits required for optimal TTK. That makes them the same as a 180 scout, but just better because they have a faster rate of fire. Is this hinting at a potential rolling in of the 180s into 200s? Hopefully. Because if that is the case, Wicked implements a 180 that could go to 200. Despite being less popular than some of their special weapons options in PvP, sniper rifles are disproportionately oppressive to play against, particularly in 3v3 game modes. We're making them slightly harder to use by nerfing aim assist a bit. Personally, I'm okay with this. At least in my lobbies, I do tend to run into more snipers than I do any of the other archetypes. Mainly the Void SMG Titans, who are running Cloud Strike 24/7, so possibly a good change. Alright, rockets becoming a meta here. Precision increased reserve ammo by 2 and reduced damage penalty from 10% to 5%. Interesting. Okay, so this is all the PvE stuff. Okay. This has me interested for exotics here. Vigilance Wing is strong in PvP already, but it's fairly hard to control with how much that 5-round burst kicks, so we've made that easier to compensate by giving it deterministic recoil. Get ready for a Vigilance Wing meta. I'm looking forward to seeing how that deterministic recoil helps that gun. Fires like a high-impact auto rifle. Other high-impact auto rifles have a larger ADS damage fall-off scaler, so they're increasing the mythos to match. That's good. True Sight is a big part of its exotic identity, so we wanted to retain that, but in its current form, it is far too useful in PvP. Alright. We're getting back-to-back dubs with this one. This is good. True Sight will now deactivate if you leave ADS or hold it for longer than 3 seconds. To reactivate, you must fully redraw the bow. My one question with this is, does the cancel or the reload canceling count as a full redraw? Because if that does, well, it's still going to be the same thing, just different. Edge of Action's bubble isn't intended to compete directly with Ward of Dawn, and with the glaive changes from Season of the Wish, we hit its health too hard. There's room to make it a lot more durable in PvE. Yeah, I'll go ahead and do a rebranding probably here in the next month or so. I can't change my name, but I'll definitely switch it to match my Twitch. That'll probably make it a lot easier. Alright, so they increase the damage resist in PvE against all combatants except bosses to 85% and increases its damage resist against bosses to 15%. So Stasis Titan using the Edge of Action bubble could be very interesting. Ooh. Curvo, if you're in here, the Manticore is getting a buff now. This could be very interesting, and I'd love to see what you can do with this, potentially. Alright, so several usability issues that we aim to address, including the need for a reliable way to drop out of the air and prevent accidentally activating anti-grav. Alright, survivability in PvE and synergy with builds that utilize void overshields. Ooh, ho ho. This could be very, very interesting. Players must now be airborne for 0.5 seconds and deal damage with the weapon to activate the perk. This prevents accidental activation while running downstairs or doing small jumps. That was one thing I had trouble with because when I was using it, but also one of the nice things about it, because then you could short hop and be like right above the ground level. So it's essentially like messing with someone using PK strafe, but airborne. It was very, very interesting to do. We gave it a special reload to quickly disengage anti-grav thrusters. Swapping weapons will continue the disengage as well. Ooh. Ereba is also receiving this special reload animation. Curious. That's nice though. Does that mean Teraba can hold ammo or hold charge if you don't need it? Ooh. Ho ho. Alright, so Teraba and Manticore just got a little bit better, I think. Alright, well, anti-grav thrusters are engaged. This looks like the PvE buff to it. So combatants will be less accurate when targeting the player, similar to the always-on-time Sparrow. And with the Catalyst, final blows and sustained damage with Manticore while airborne grant a void overshield and return ammo to the magazine. That just made this thing something I will mess around with after the 5th of March. Alright, and then Exdirus is getting something here. So, increased impact damage against PvE enemies by 50%. Detonation damage is unaffected, so the total damage increase works out to be around 20%, varying by target type. And increase the maximum rate of fire by 17%. I'm curious about that in PvE, especially with the Moth Keepers. Alright. So heal clip got a change, trench barrel, barrel constrictor, loose change, dual loader. Alright, let's see what we've got. Heal clip wasn't as valuable to the activating player as we wanted it to be, so we fixed that. And so now it grants Cure 2 to the user, while granting Cure 1 to nearby allies. That's good because I have an Igneous Hammer with Heal Clip Precision Instrument, so that will probably entice me to use it a bit. And then Trench Barrel was originally designed in a world where there were few ranged melee attacks, and it wasn't desirable to make them even more valuable by allowing them to activate certain perks. Trench Barrel can now be activated by dealing ranged melee damage. That's good for PvE. Barrel Constrictor, once activated, it no longer deactivates upon firing a shot. It lasts for about 7.5 seconds, and it buffs all shots fired during that time. Enhanced lasts for 8.5. I think, doesn't the return or the current revamped version of the Dreaming City shotgun come back with Barrel Constrictor? Because that might be very interesting. Because the precision frames are already pretty much the best. That could make it even better. Loose Change, applying a subclass 3.0 debuff, grants 20 aim assist, 20% reduced ADS movement speed, and the existing 50 reload stat. And applying another debuff now refreshes the duration. Alright, dual loader, remove the reload speed penalty, and change the wording of the perk description to make it clearer that it increases the number of shots reloaded. So we can now apply it to other weapon types without confusion in the future. So dual loader could be very interesting on shotguns now. Alright, so text balance stock is getting a flat up buff, making it more consistent. I was talking about this in a video or a stream. I think it was probably a video I was trying to record, but when I was trying to, in the recording, I just didn't feel the video was worth, that match was going to be a good one. But this is bringing it closer to being the perk from DMT. So that could be very interesting to see how that balances out between the two. Hang on. Interesting. So Haka Breach armaments, Deconstruct, and Sundering now work against Void Souls. So that's PvP based, I think. Strand Clones. Good. Briggs and Cabal Projection Shields. Okay, the Briggs is good for PvE. Strand Clones and Void Souls is going to be very nice. So, what is it? The NEOD I think we got, as far as a Haka SMG, will definitely be good picks for taking out Void Souls or Strand Clones. And okay, so then Haka Breach armaments also got a damage or a nerf versus stasis crystals, which is fine. Alright, and then Sundering got a bit of a buff, it looks like, to Shield Break. So now trigger on Shield Break, in addition to other final blows or on vehicles and constructs. We added a small reload speed scaler while reducing the charge rate benefit to account for the higher uptime. Let's see. Hatchling activation requirements no longer locked to the archetype in terms of precision or non-precision kills. Okay. Either precision kill or 3 non-precision kills. Very nice. Okay, this is going to be, I think, the biggest change as far as perk-wise. Especially for PvP. Because this is SMGs. This is your Immortals. This is your Unending Tempest. This is going to be nice. Target Lock now activates later in the magazine for SMGs at 20% instead of 12.5. So the damage buff will swing primary weapon gunfights less often. Bungie, you're doing good. We're on the right track here. Envious Assassin's loop works pretty well. Each activation is now capped at 100% of magazine instead of 150. And the maximum overflow is now 3 times the magazine size instead of 4. Alright. That's alright. And Bait and Switch is getting a nerf by about 5% damage, which shouldn't change it too much, but still good. And alright, 1-2 punch. Now correctly deactivates after dealing damage with a powered melee for 1-2 punch, and Deconstruct updated the perk description to correctly state that it pulls ammo from thin air, not reserves. Okay. For mods, they're changing boss spec to include mini-bosses, and then... Okay, so that's not major spec, so they're technically swapping those. Alright, so the future... We've pulled a lot of balance changes from the final shape and Destiny 2 into the light, into update 7.3.5, but we still have a number of small but exciting changes shipping into the light, touching content many players haven't thought about in several years. Please tell me we're getting changes to, like, the moon weapons to give them an origin trait, along with Europa, and some of those other places that just don't feel worth going back to. In the final shape, we're rebalancing many weapon types in PvE, buffing underperforming ones, leaving most high performers untouched. Since we're looking at PvE weapon tuning anyways, over the course of the year of the final shape, we'll be looking at weapon mods, that feel mandatory, and we intend to make some changes that will increase player choice, particularly in PvE. We're also making substantial changes to several of the least used exotic weapons. We see a lot of requests for these, see if you can guess which exotics we touched, and adjusting some perks, including a long requested change to Chill Clip, making it more viable to use on slower firing weapons. You can also look forward to being able to enhance many more weapons. Does that mean world drops? Heliocentric with enhanced heal clip and kill clip. Could be fun. Alright, so that might be next week. Or the week after that, who knows? Alright. Okay. This is the long part of it, I think. Alright, the PvP Strike Team has a lot to talk about in the coming weeks. In this section, we're covering the changes to PvP-specific tuning for weapon types, exotics, abilities, and special ammo generation. Note, these changes are not applied to Mayhem, Momentum, and Checkmate. Okay, so this is just coming to the base game. They retain their own custom modifiers. Checkmate has been retuned to be more representative of its original intended form. Dubs. I like this. That means I'll probably go back into Checkmate when it comes back again. And there will be more info on that from the PvP Strike Team next week. Our base Crucible Sandbox currently faces a number of issues. What we'll talk about here today represents a large macro pass designed to begin to address several of these concerns, and it will be followed by additional micro-tuning in the future. The symptoms of these issues affect players across the skill spectrum, from 2,000-hour veterans to new lights. 2,000 hours is a decent medium. So it's important that we begin to address them as best we can. Let's identify our goals, what the symptoms are in terms of how our gameplay is affected, and then we can discuss the root causes and the corresponding changes. Alright. First off, help players to more clearly understand the sequence of events that led to their death. Does this mean we're getting a kill cam? Alright, so that they can more easily learn how to improve. If that's a kill cam, I'm interested. Because there's some times I'd like to have one. And there's some I'd just facepalm and just go, yeah, I did that to myself. Alter the weapon sandbox to account for the increased average skill of our player base by reducing the amount of high reward, low risk options. I'm curious. And encourage primary weapon mastery to be an aspirational pursuit for players. I've been on that train for a long time now. Okay. As we've increased the prevalence and strength of some sandbox elements, the ability to clearly understand what is happening from a target's perspective has suffered. It is increasingly common to be defeated instantaneously, or so quickly that there is no time to react, and often so many different things are happening that it's nearly impossible to determine the sequence of events that killed you. And when a defeated player has difficulty recognizing and reacting to how they were defeated, it creates a situation where it feels like there was nothing they could have done, making it hard to learn what to do better next time. It also places a strong focus on being the one to deliver as many of these types of unreadable kills as possible, while utilizing build crafting to avoid becoming the recipient. Then sandbox elements that do not benefit either of those paths fall out of favor. Yeah, that tends to happen. Additionally, while the average skill of our players has crept up over the years, the weapons sandbox has not grown alongside it. For example, a much higher percentage of our players can hit optimal TTKs with SMGs, peak shot with hand cannons, or Blint with Wish Ender. I didn't even know that was a thing. I'll have to look into that. Today than could several years ago. In large part, this is because a certain amount of forgiveness was baked into many primary weapons to allow more players to utilize them at their full potential. For example, high reward weapons like precision SMGs or aggressive hand cannons, only requiring 67% critical hits to achieve optimal TTK, and Wish Ender allowing you to follow up with the bow swap with a body shot from a hand cannon. This leniency allows players to make mistakes and still benefit from the full strength of the playstyle. Alright, this is good. This is good. That made sense when the average player skill was lower, but in the current ecosystem, a far larger number of players can take advantage of those benefits. Yeah, in 2020, when I first came to PC, I was among the lower end of the skill spectrum as far as all of these weapons are concerned, and nowadays, if I was to go back and start in 2020 again, from where I am now, I would have wiped the floor with a lot of players back then. A lot of people now would do that. This is manifesting itself in multiple places, but it's most noticeable in the significant compression of the skill gap at high levels of play. An additional byproduct is an increase in difficulty for new players finding their footing in a game where many veteran players have near mastery of these existing playstyles. I was just talking about that. Which increases the friction of refreshing the pool of players in PvP. Yeah, that's right. Finally, at high levels of play, things like high body shot damage, generous aim assist. Are we changing aim assist now? Yeah, okay. Cool. Primary weapon flinch and low critical hit requirements all contribute to the feeling that putting in the time to improve your skill with primary weapons... It is out early. I was expecting it to be out at like 12:30 or 1. Alright, putting in the time to improve your skill with primary weapons is generally not worth the effort. Look at a lot of top players who are streaming. A lot of them are good with their primaries, but they generally are focused on their specials or their abilities right now. Myself included. I'm definitely reliant on my abilities. But my gunplay's alright. It can be better. Okay. With many meta primary weapons, hitting optimal or nearly optimal TTK is less representative of mastery of the weapon and is instead merely an expectation of standard play. Similarly, at lower levels of play, players can still lose relatively quickly to an inaccurate opponent, which minimizes the time they have to figure out the sandbox and learn. Oh, I need to deal with my throat here. And often making them feel like they are playing higher skilled players than they really are. Yeah, that is true. These symptoms are all generated by a handful of root causes, each generally linked to the others in a cycle of balance that encourages us to touch all of them at once if we're making big changes, or in smaller increments if we are modifying things individually. Alright, first bullet point they have here is we have certain ability builds with either higher uptime or higher potency than we believe is healthy. I'd honestly say the Stasis Titan build that I have, if played right, is among the higher potency end of the side. Strand lives on the higher potency side. I'm hoping we get a well nerf. Hopefully. I didn't even think about that, actually. Yeah, you're right. Those are on both of these. Alright, to help keep those builds in check, we've provided a near constant availability of special ammo, which means there's always a surplus of one-shot kill weapons on the field. This is true. There's a lot of them. And to keep primary weapons competitive, we have made primary weapons highly lethal, fast killing, and in general, also very forgiving. High aim assist, target lock, and generally, hand cannons fit under all of these. And that leads to a high percentage of deaths in our sandbox where, from the target's perspective, it feels like there was nothing they could have done differently. That happens a lot, especially for lower skill players, or players who suffer from a higher degree of scrub mentality. That was the word I was looking for. Simply put, we have a risk versus reward problem over time. We pushed some of our sandbox elements to have higher rewards without offsetting them with the risk of punishing suboptimal play. Some elements take it a step further. Instead of just rewarding the attacker, they punish the target. Example, explosive payload hand cannons, flinch, and the Wish Ender's True Sight. Okay, they're outright talking about explosive payload. I'm curious how that's going to change. That's going to be something that a lot of the top-end players, or the wannabe Wallas and people are going to probably complain about for a couple minutes. Alright, to begin to address these issues, the following changes will be applied to the Crucible starting on March 5th. Player health We have two goals with the following increase to player health. It gives us far more granularity to balance our current and future sandbox elements, and it lets us decrease the relative lethality of multiple sandbox elements. Example, grenades and body shot damage, all at once and universally. Player health will be increased by a flat 30 HP in base Crucible, so players have 100 health and about 124 shield, depending on the player's resilience value. And I made that guess going off of kind of a general rule of thumb, because players will run about 6 or 7 to combat Thorn. Okay. Ability cooldowns. Please be worth it. Please be worth it. These values, combined with the changes to the mod economy earlier this season, will move us to a place where ability uptime is healthier for the Crucible. Melee, grenade, and class ability cooldowns now have a 15% penalty applied to them in Crucible only. Okay, we'll wait to see what Cool Guy and them have to say on what that should realistically change some of our abilities to be like. Super cooldowns have a 20% penalty in Crucible only. Okay, interesting. And then ability damage to account for the increased player health and the reduced uptime. We have made some general changes to melee and super damage and 1 grenade. Is that gonna be scatter grenade? Please tell me that's scatter grenade. To make sure that we maintain... Oh, it's... Okay, it's flux grenade. I was hoping they were gonna change the scatter grenade. Alright, to make sure that we maintain moment-to-moment muscle memory and retain our current general rules of most supers killing in 1 shot and most melees killing in 2. So this is just to bring everything up to where it should be. Primary weapon archetypes. To maintain the same optimal TTK rates as the current sandbox, with the new HP values, and to place an increased emphasis on precision, all primary weapons, except bows, will have their critical hit damage increased. We will also reduce the flinch dealt by hand cannons. Please work. Please don't just kind of fluff about and not work properly, as they were a consistent outlier even compared to other high damage primary weapons like scout rifles and bows. Yeah. Thank you. Hopefully this works. Pulse rifles, auto rifles, sidearms, and scouts all increased critical hit damage by about 14%. Just bringing them back in line. Reduced body shot damage by 5% on hand cannons. Increased critical hit by 10%. Does that mean it'll 2-head 2-body now? On 140s? And does that require 3 headshots for 120s? Alright. Reduced flinch dealt to players by projectile impact by 12.5% and by explosive payload by 10%. So, what is it? Fatebringer, Rose, and I think... No, hang on. Time payload isn't in here, unless explosive payload is counting time payload. The little Suros hand cannon, the Cantata, could potentially still work as it does now. But overall, that's pretty good. Alright. We'll see. They can still be pretty good. SMGs increase crit hit damage by 12.5%, reduced body shot damage by 3%. Bows have a reduced base damage of 15%. I'm hoping that helps us in the current game. Okay, special ammo acquisition after a lengthy test period in Crucible Labs. Okay, so the special ammo meter is coming to the general play. This was kind of known that it was going to happen. Alright. We have made several changes between the initial version and this one, so here are the details on how it will work. You will start every game, all game types, including round-based modes like Dominion, with 2 kills worth of special ammo for your chosen weapon. Instead of 2 kills worth of special ammo being granted every time you respawn, you will earn more ammo by filling up a special ammo meter, which points given for getting kills, assists, or completing objectives. Getting 100 points grants you 2 kills worth of special ammo for your chosen weapon. Cool. Okay, so 5 kills will give you ammo, 10 assists, or 10 deaths will give you ammo. So you could realistically get ammo in about 3 kills with capturing a zone and getting maybe an assist or 2. Heavy ammo goes for you 8, that's alright. And then for elimination, that goes to 38 for kills. So 3 kills, so if you get a team wipe, if you are the one that gets the team wipe, you will get ammo. If you an assist, you need 1 more kill in the next match. Same with the deaths. 3v3 respawn modes, kills 26, so 4 kills. Still very close to the 10 deaths, 10 assists. Okay, Rumble, you need 4 kills. Countdown, charge armed, 5 to get ammo. If you get defuse, you need 2 defuse, 1 arm. Detonated, you'll have ammo the next round. In a way, possibly. I don't foresee it happening to where we get a lot more double primary play. I foresee a situation where your Strand Hunters will, or like your top level players, will then figure out a new way to play. And so you'll probably see, like currently, Devil's Ruin is a very hot checkmate weapon. I foresee that becoming a very hot general Crucible weapon with this change specifically. Okay, general notes. Kills from special ammo or heavy weapons do not award any points towards the meter. That's a general overall good thing because I don't want to die to a Cloud Strike 3 times in a row due to my teammates dying, and then they just keep getting Cloud Strike ammo. Honestly, this change was on the way. As soon as it was seen, Astrocross even mentioned as soon as they made this change for Checkmate, that this was going to be in the base game. Jumping off the map will subtract progress from the special ammo meter. Interesting. Ammo is not dropped on death, and you will not lose the special ammo you have earned. Earned special ammo carry over. Swapping from double primary weapons to a special ammo weapon will reset your special ammo meter. Well, the team shotting possibly could change, because right now it's a lot of hand cannons playing the team shotting, or hand cannons or bows. So yes, a lot of this is going to stay fairly the same, but this should help running into a Strand Hunter that always has Chaperone or conditional ammo, and it's just constantly strand diving you and keeping you in a constant state of suspend. So coming from like mid, like just above mid and just below top level play, this is going to be a fairly good overall change. It's just going to take getting used to, somewhat like when we had the Checkmate as the overall game mode there for a few weeks. It's just going to take time to get used to. Okay, and then I assume there was going to be special weapon changes to help alleviate this for some of them. So trace rifles, okay, so increased health, and to partially make up for reduced uptime. So shotguns essentially are getting an increased range, effective range by doing this. Trace rifles are going to be getting, so keep an eye on Cold Heart. It's not going to slow the game down. That's the thing. It's going to change the weapons that people use. So right now, a lot of the explosive in my level of play, I see a lot of explosive hand cannons with like Mapadors or shotguns of that nature. So a couple things I will say here though, is shotguns will get a pseudo range increase by getting this base increase in damage. It might be something, it's not going to be a whole lot of range, but it's going to be a slight increase. fusions are getting the same, and trace rifles. Cold Heart you're going to watch out for. You also want to watch out for the kill clip incisors, because that's also getting that increase. Yeah. Glaives get increased projectile damage, melee damage increase, so they should still be the 3-hit, and projectile should still be 2-hit. Okay. This could be nice. Heavy ammo grenade launchers have been the meta pick for PvP for a long time, and we want to make sure that they did not get any better. With the PvE changes outlined above, due to the increased health, it will be a little more difficult for them to kill high resilience guardians when using proxy nades, and then machine guns have long been in the dust, so they're getting a damage increase, while grenade launchers are getting a damage nerf. Yeah, that's been their kind of thing all around, is the nerf ammo. In D1 we had the horrendous version of it, of the ammo boxes. So the fact that you don't lose progress unless you're falling off the map is a good thing. So I don't foresee it being a huge issue. Alright. This is where I was wondering about. Alright, so some exotic weapons partially bypass the special ammo economy changes, and in a world with reduced breach load grenade launchers and fusion rifles, they quickly rose to the top of the list of annoyances. Crimson, like other hand cannons, has long been dealing extreme amounts of flinch to other players, and this was exacerbated by the fact that it fires in a burst. It has been custom tuned to deal slightly less flinch than other hand cannons. There were also a couple of exotic weapons that we felt deserved to come up a bit so that they were not punished by the changes. Alright, so Fighting Lion's getting a nerf. It's not going to change the Snipe Lions or the Bow Lions, I don't think. It might change it to where you need 2 headshots, but it probably won't. Devil's Ruin, decreased charge beam damage. That might make up for the checkmate issues. I want to see how the reduced flinch on Crimson goes. Foreigner and Symmetry both getting buffs is kind of cool. At top level play, Fighting Lion was one of the best weapons. There was a comment made in, I think, a video or possibly something I read, that you sit in an Empowering Rift with 3 of them, and you just kind of lob them down range in like Trials of Osiris or some kind of round-based mode, and you will absolutely wipe out the other team. Right there. And then it goes into the Lunar New Year stuff. Next Trials map is going to be Dead Cliffs. And if you don't have Destiny or you're getting into it, the Humble Bundle, part of it's there. So you can get almost all the content, I think, for 40 bucks. And I think that's it for the TWAB. So go in and play some Crucible now, and then we'll see. Because of those changes, I don't foresee a lot of things becoming too out of line. I like that they brought hand cannons back in line, because they have been the outlier for a while. We'll just kind of have to watch and see for that one, in as far as like PvP goes now. It could be something where them doing this kind of breaks it, but it could be something where in doing this they also kind of bring it all back in line. So we'll have to see how that goes. But generally speaking, though, I think that reducing the flinch dealt by hand cannons is going to be good. Because especially in some of my matches when I'm, like, right before the Trials weekend, I'll run into Defizzle and some of the teams around his level. They're absolutely amazing, and their coordination is on point. But the level of flinch that you get and you receive, it should allow players around my skill level to compete against them without being completely a flip-sided scenario. I'm curious how the bow change is going to happen, or bow change is going to make the one-shot bows. So like the Swash Europa bow, I wonder how that's going to work going forward. Or like, I think golden tricorn bows are probably going to be the next big option as far as PvP goes, because of the 50% damage increase. But if you're to ask me what I think is going to happen and what we're going to see going forward, I think we're going to see more Forerunner and more Symmetry, at least in these next few weeks, to see if people are getting used to them. I think people are going to start getting familiar with Trace Rifles, especially Cold Heart, going forward for the increased base damage, because it already currently has a 0.33 time to kill optimally. So, if that happens... The other one I'm curious about is fusion rifles. How far is that going to push out their range? Because there's a potential of that pushing out their range by another 2 meters or so, depending on archetype. Swapping from double primaries, though, that... I'm curious. That's gonna be very interesting as far as, like, 3v3 modes. Okay. That kill. But yeah, I think we're likely to see a lot of shifts in builds. I'm expecting to see more sidearm builds on PC become more viable because hand cannons are getting nerfed like this. I'm also expecting to see a lot more potential use of auto rifles, especially since auto rifles aren't getting the target lock change, so they're still going to have the better version of target lock. That's the clone there. does make me curious for some builds, though. How is that hand cannon thing going to affect Thorn? Becomes another question of mine here. I guess a question I can ask is there any weapon archetypes that you think won't... What other weapon archetypes do you think won't be good going forward? I'm thinking 180 Scouts just became kind of useless with their changing of the 3-head 1-body. Thought I had my melee there. Alright, so that's gonna change the melee for Strand. We probably would have killed him. So like I was saying, Race Rifle. And then there was also the... There's 2 of them in this match, though, so that's... I don't think we're gonna see a downturn in fighting Lion. That's kind of it. Pterodil. Bow from Witch Queen. sucks my melee didn't connect there. Alright, well, to the three of you still watching, thanks for stopping by. I just want to kind of play, or go through the TWAB there just to see what we got as far as changes. I kind of told you my thoughts on what I think is going to change, what I think isn't going to change. So, appreciate you for stopping by. I think we will go ahead and call the stream there, and then I'll go ahead and work on a video on the Moon auto rifle. We should have that up probably by the end of the day. So, with that being said,